course content section of the portal. Alright, so this is the very first session, and basically the requirements to complete the course is you need a laptop, internet connection, trial copy or purchase copy of the software, some basic accounting knowledge, and for this session we'll be looking at creating a company file and creating or importing the chart of accounts as per the Ministry of Education sample budget, creating what is called a class list, enabling items and purchase orders, and we're going to be looking at creating 3 types of items, which are service items, inventory items, and non-inventory items. Alright, so let's get started. So persons who are able to follow can follow. So we're going to start by creating a company file. We're using QuickBooks Desktop Pro 2021. Alright, since QuickBooks Pro 2020, Intuit basically changes the way you create a company file. For security reasons, you require an Intuit account to access the file. Just as how you would need to have a Microsoft account to activate Windows and so on, and to recover your license and all of that. Intuit basically has gone in the same direction to give you better control of your data and to make the platform, make their platform more secure. So it's one account for all Intuit products. So if you have several QuickBooks versions, once you log into your Intuit account, you would see all of those versions that you have purchased. Alright, so once you open QuickBooks and you try to create a company file, QuickBooks will ask you, who are you creating the company file for? And you basically can create a company file for yourself if you are the admin. In that case, an email address will be required in creating the company file that will be linked to the file. In case there is some issues with password, in case you need to reset the admin password, that's the email that you would use. Or you can create the file for someone else. So you can create the file on behalf of the admin. Right? We're going to use the first option, which is to create the file for myself. So basically you're creating the file as the admin. We're going to click on start setup, and once you click start to setup, QuickBooks will try to go online for you to log in to link the file that you are going to be creating to your Intuit account. So if you are new to Intuit, you will need to create an account by clicking the create account option down the bottom. However, if you have an existing Intuit account, you just need to enter your email address and your password. And you can skip the telephone number verification because Intuit won't send text messages to Jamaica for the desktop version. Alright, so basically, as you can see, the email address that I just used has been linked. I cannot change anything here. What I need to do now is to populate the company information. So business name would be the name of your institution. Where industry is concerned, we're not going to select an industry, because selecting an industry will basically preset the chart of accounts, and we don't want to use the preset accounts that are provided by Intuit based on industry. We want to create our own chart of accounts based on the MOE chart of accounts. So business name, we're going to use Demo High School. And I mean, if you're a primary school, you can use Demo Primary School or some other name. Alright, this is really for demonstration purposes. For industry, as I said earlier, once you select an industry, QuickBooks will give you some preset accounts. So once I click on an industry on the left, you'll see the set of preset accounts that comes with that industry, that is relevant to that industry. But we don't want these accounts. We want to create our accounts. So when we are posting and we are to generate our reports, it can be in line with the MOE budget. So what we are going to select, we're going to select other or none. Other/none. And we're going to select OK. And business type, can select other or none as well. Business address, we can just make up an address. And you won't see Jamaica, so you can use other. Zip code, you can use 5 zeros. And once we have populated this form, we can click Create Company. And QuickBooks will basically ask us where we want to save the company file. Can create a folder called QuickBooks Company File. And our company file is being created. This should take less than a minute to complete. Okay, so we are all set. We can now start working. Okay, so once we have created the company file, we need to basically do some tweaks. But before I do so, I'm going to basically give you a walkthrough of the dashboard so you can get a better understanding of the user interface. So the home screen or the dashboard is basically divided in 5 sections, namely the vendor section, the customer section, the employee section, which we will not explore in this session or in this course, the company section, and the banking section. So most of the functions in QuickBooks can be found on the dashboard. These are basically shortcuts, and what you are seeing is a flow chart basically, and it is basically the accounting process. But there is something missing from that flow chart that we need to enable, and that is creating purchase order, because as you can see where vendors are concerned, the process starts at entering bills, right? So we need to basically enable purchase orders. So the process will start at creating purchase orders. So you are going to go to edit, and you are going to go to preferences, and you are going to go to items and inventory, because by default inventory is not turned on in QuickBooks. You have to actually turn on inventory, and that's one of the first things you need to do once you create a company file. So that is accessed through the edit and the preferences option or menu. So you would click on the items and inventory menu to the left, and you have 2 tabs, the My Preferences tab and the Company Preferences tab. Under the Company Preferences tab, we're under the heading Purchase Orders and Inventory. You will see an option that says Inventory and Purchase Orders are active. By default, this is unchecked. So what we want to do is to check this to enable inventory and purchase orders. Once you have selected OK, QuickBooks will close all its windows, and once we go back to the home screen, we will have a redefined home screen, which now starts at purchase orders. So before, we weren't seeing purchase orders, receive inventory, enter bills against inventory. We were only seeing enter bills and pay bills. So the inventory component was not turned on by default. So we just turned that on. Alright, there's another option that need to be enabled in QuickBooks, and that is the class list, because we are going to be creating classes later on in this session. So we're going to go back to, so basically what we're doing now is tweaking the system. So we're going to go back to edit, and we're going to go back to preferences, and we are going to go to accounting, and we're going to go to company preferences, and we're under, you have three sections here. You have accounts, you have class, and you have date warnings. So we're going to select use class tracking for a transaction, and we're going to select OK. So class is now active. Alright, so we are now going to be, now that we have created a company file, we are now going to be creating the chart of account based on the Ministry of Education's budget. So chart of accounts can be found under company. So to the top right under company, you have chart of accounts. And as you can see, we only have 4 accounts that are default accounts that the system, that QuickBooks basically create. So we can make some of these accounts are not necessary either. So we can, like for instance, payroll expenses, we can make it inactive. However, these 2 accounts, because we're gonna make payroll liabilities inactive as well. Opening balance, equity, and retained earnings are 2 accounts that is a must. We need to have those accounts in QuickBooks. Alright, so we are now going to get some other accounts in the system. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to basically get your accounts in. I'm going to show you how to add the accounts manually, and I'm going to show you how to create the accounts. Import the accounts, I should say. So 1, to add the accounts manually, and 2, to import the accounts. So to create an account, and before I do so, I'm going to basically bring up the MOE budget. Is everyone seeing my screen? Mr. Earth? Okay. Alright, so this is the MOE budget, standard budget that the MOE uses. And what MOE basically do, they have an object coding which comprise of a letter and a number. So you have B, which is B is the income section, and C is the expenditure section. And that's how we need to create the accounts in B and the accounts in C. Because what the MOE wants is an income and an expenditure statement. Income and expenditure statement, right? So we need to add these accounts. Alright, so to add these accounts, first we need to create the parent accounts. Then we create the child accounts. Alright, so to create an account, you can right click anywhere on a blank area and click on new, or you can click the account drop down to the bottom left and click on new. So we're going to create the income accounts first. So we click on income, click on continue, and we're going to create a broad B income. Save and close. So that's a parent account. Alright, B income. So the next account to be created is B 1.1. which is Subvention grant. So we can right click and select new. The 1.1. Okay, and then we need to sub this under the broad parent account of B income. And QuickBooks basically have a character limitation, so the name of the accounts cannot be more than 31 characters. So we can abbreviate these accounts as much as possible. So we can say, instead of having financial year April to March, we can say fin year APR to MAR. And it's basically maxed. So we are going to basically just have subvention grant. Can just have April to March. That should suffice. And as you can see, this account is basically indented from its parent. So once you have subbed an account, it will be shown indented from the parent. So that is B1.1. We're going to do B1.2. Oh, there's one thing that we are missing, and we have this heading that says MOE Subvention and Grants. We can also create an account, a sub for that as well, because we want it to be as close as possible to the MOE budget when we are doing the budget in QuickBooks, and also when we are doing our reporting in terms of the financial statements. We're going to create an income account for this MOE Subvention and Grants, and we're going to make it a sub of B, which means that we need to edit B1.1 and make B1.1 a sub of MOEY Subvention and Grants. So there you have B1.1 being a sub of B income. QuickBooks allows up to 4 levels of subbing an item, and we have gone 3 levels where this is concerned. We are now going to add a few more for income. We're going to add B1.2, which is staffing support. And we're going to add administrative support. It's B1.3. Basically going to add a few of them, and you will complete the others for assignment. Persons who don't have a copy of this budget, it will be available for download via the course content section. We're not going to use all the time to do income. We're gonna do a few expenditure as well. So when we create the items, we have an account to link those items to. So I'm going to create a few more. I think we need to create one that is relevant to, for instance, the Tuckshop. So we need to look at creating an account called Profit from Income Generating Activities. And that will be under the broad income. And we're going to create these two accounts. We're going to create not two, three accounts, I should say. Is nutritional support, B2.1. And this would actually be B2. Profit from income generating activities would actually be B2. So we're going to edit that. And MOE, this one at the top would be B1. It's important that the numbers are correct, and also the spacing, because that will determine the order in which it falls. So because there's a space here, this one did not fall in the correct order. So we're going to get rid of the space and save it, and there you have it. It is now in the correct order as per the budget. We're going to add two accounts, three accounts for B2. Right click, new, and we're going to add nutritional support, which is B2.1. Which is a sub account of B2. And the way sub accounts work is that the child accounts basically feed into the total for the parent account. We're going to create B2.2, which is Tuckshop bookshop. And it's a sub account of B2. And finally for B is B2.3. And this is a sub of B2. Alright, so basically we have created some of the income accounts. We're now going to move on to the expenditure quickly, but I'm not going to be creating all of them. I'm going to move on to doing a quick import just to show you how the import works. So you can click on new here, click on expense. So you won't see the word expenditure as the account type. You will see income, but you'll not see expenditure. What you'll see is expense, and we're going to select expense, and we're going to create the broad parent account for expenditure, which is C expenditure. And that's a parent account. So as you can see, it is to the far left. It is not indented. So we're going to create the sub accounts and the subs. So C1 is compensation. And that's a sub of C expenditure. And next we have C1.1, which is permanent or temporary teaching staff and an establishment. I'm going to put E to basically highlight that that's the staff and establishment based on the character limitation. And we're going to do the fourth level of subbing, which is C1.1A, which would be permanent salaries. And this is a sub of permanent or temporary staff that are on the establishment. So that is permanent. So here we have the 4 levels of sub, unlike the income. So expenditure has more levels, I should say. C1.2B, which would be temporary salaries.
Sir, I think that should be under expense.
Oh, my bad, my bad. Should be under expense. Thanks for highlighting that. See 1.1B. Right, that should be under expenditure. Thank you. Wha- 1.2B, I should say. And this is a sub of permanent / temporary teaching staff on establishment. Save and close. Alright, so this is what your expenditure should be looking like. But we're not going to use all the time to do this. I'm going to basically show you to quickly import some of these accounts. So I've basically created a second sheet in which I have merged the Ministry of Education coding with the name, and I call this field account. You can use a formula called concatenate to basically merge two fields in Excel. So I basically merge both of them to come up with this column, and I define the type for the import. So the type should be defined. So it's either an income or an expense. Right, so I did that. I went ahead and did that in the interest of time. Therefore, my sheet is basically ready for import. Right, so this is what I've basically concatenated and created the type column. So now I am going to do my import to bring in the other accounts. To do an import, you click the drop down, just as how you create an account, but this time you go to import from Excel. And sometimes it's best that you close Excel before you do so. So let's try again. Okay, so we're gonna browse for the file. We're gonna be browsing for our Excel file. I think this is our file based on the modified time. So once we have selected a file, we need to QuickBooks will basically start Microsoft Excel in the background. We need to select the sheet, and once we have selected the sheet, we need to create a mapping, which basically points the QuickBooks fields to the Microsoft Excel fields. So the account type is in the type column. The account name is basically in the account column. And that's all we need, the account name and the account type. The account description can also be the account. Right, and we can call this Demo High School mapping or map. And you save it, then you click on import. QuickBooks will require that you do a backup in case the import goes wrong, but I mean, we're not going to do that now in the interest of time. We're just going to go ahead and select continue or select yes. Once you have selected yes, the import will begin. And QuickBooks will ask you, what do you want to do with the duplicate records? There will be duplicates because we created some of these accounts manually. So what we are going to do is to keep existing data and discard imported data, and we're going to apply it to all. So we basically imported 84 records. However, 57 records were not imported, and this could be because of the length of the characters. The character limitation is actually 31 characters for the field, and MOE fields are very long. So what you may need to do is to spend the time and go through and try to shorten the all of the accounts to less 31 characters and less or less. So we're gonna save the log. Once you have a log, you can go back to the log and see which accounts were imported and which accounts were not. Alright, so this is what we just imported here, and system will not sub it for you. It is possible to sub it, but it is complicated based on the length of the characters. So what you need to do now is to go through and just click on edit and sub these accounts under their relevant headings, but basically save you the time to type them one by one. Alright, so that's it as it relates to creating the chart of accounts or importing the chart of accounts. I'm now going to move on to creating the class list, which is very simple. Alright, and a class is basically a way to track different units or different entities in QuickBooks. So you have one big QuickBooks file, and you use class tracking to track different entities, different locations, and everything feeds into the same chart of accounts or budget. So you have a Tuckshop, you create a class called Tuckshop. You have more than one campuses, you create a class for this campus, for that campus. They all will fall under the same chart of accounts. For instance, you have different departments, you can create a class for all your departments. You have income generating project, you have agricultural project, you can have a class for that. Because what this does, it helps you to report on those areas. So any area that you need to report on, you need to have a class for that area. Before we do the class, alright, so now let's move into the class. So to access your class or to create your class, you need to go to list and you go to class list. I've already enabled class, so you can either click the class drop down to the bottom left and click on new class, and we're going to create a class for subvention. We're going to create a class for fees, school fees. We're going to create a class for Tuckshop. And we're going to create a class for canteen. I think we can also create another class for income generating project, or special funds, I should say. Let's use special funds. A lot of schools have a special funds account. Alright, so we have created 5 classes, and you may create classes to suit your situation. Alright, so we have defined the class. What we are going to be creating next is, we have already enabled items and purchase orders. We're going to be creating some items. So we're going to be creating service items, inventory items, and non-inventory items. So a service item is basically a non or intangible item that you would create to basically enable you to create transactions for services, that either the services that you offer to your students or the services that you receive from your suppliers. So for instance, you have a company that service your air conditioning units. You need to create a service item for AC servicing. So to create an item, you would go to list and you go to item list, and you can right click anywhere and click on new, or you can click the drop down to the bottom left and click on new. Alright, and we're going to be selecting service because we are creating a service item. So the type should be service. The item name can be AC servicing. Description is lengthier, so it's normally more characters. So you can say to service air conditioning units at the school. Alright, we will leave the rate blank because there may not be a set rate for to service the AC. Alright, and this would fall, you would basically select the account that whenever you use this item on a payment or on a purchase order or on any transaction, it would basically charge one of these accounts that we are going to be selecting. So servicing the AC, we need to find an account that would fall under.
To go on the maintenance.
Alright, maintenance, which would be D1.7. Alright, so we selected maintenance. Alright, and we select OK. Alright, so basically that is set to maintenance. Alright, now we need to create an account for a service item called MOE grant. Service. And this is to record monies received from the Ministry of Education. But you have to be more specific, so you can say MOE Subvention Grant. And this would go to subvention grants, D1.1, and you will not put a set amount because the amount will vary based on the tranche that you are getting and based on your budget. So we are going to select OK, and we are going to create, so these are we have created one income service and one expense service. We're going to create another expense service, which is electricity charges, which is also intangible. And we'll put this to utilities. Should be C3, and we're going to select OK, and we're going to create an income service. Let's say transcript. So if the school prepares a transcript for a student, well, you would have a set amount for transcript. So if it is $800, you would put that amount in, and this would maybe be other income. And we're going to select OK. So I've created 4 service items, but you can always create more items as we go along and or as needed. We're going to now create some inventory items, and inventory items are different from all other items. The fact that an inventory item is tracked during the life cycle of the item from it is being procured, in terms of from you get 3 quotation from your supplier and you prepare the purchase order. System basically tracks the item until it is disposed. So that is the difference with this item. It is tracked, and in terms of quantities, the quantities are also tracked. So we're going to create, and this would be more relevant for items that you resell. So we're going to create some items that would be more relevant to the Tuckshop. So we're going to create 2 items, and let's say we're going to use cranberry water for one. Cran water. Normally you put the size. Alright, so you have description that is displayed on their purchase transactions, and you have description that is displayed on your sales transactions. Normally they are the same. Alright, let's say the cost is $60 and you sell it for $90. It would give you a markup of about $30. Income account, we are going to use B2.2 for the income account. And a preferred vendor is not required, but if you want QuickBooks to suggest a vendor when you need to create a purchase order, then you can add a preferred vendor. And we're going to add a quick vendor, which is Wisynco, and use them as a preferred vendor for cran water. Alright. The inventory asset account is basically preset to inventory asset, and the cost of goods sold account is basically preset to cost of goods sold. Can have a reorder point, and this is where QuickBooks would remind you that you need to reorder cran water. So we are going to set this reorder point to be 24, and your on-hand quantities, how many cran water you have on at this time. We're going to basically enter 36. We have 36 cran waters on, and this is as at the 31st of August, because we are doing it. This is for instance, you're starting to use the software the 1st of September. You need to enter all your inventory that you have on to get your opening balances. So it is the 31st of August 2021. So QuickBooks basically calculate the total value by multiplying the quantity on by the cost to give you the value. And we're going to select OK. And we're going to create one more item, and this item will be national bun, or national spice bun. or it's not spice bun, it's round bun. I'm just gonna have national bun. And I don't know the going price for these, but I'm just gonna, let's say it costs $80. I'm gonna put the price for $130 and preferred vendor would be national. Reorder point 36, and let's say we have 60 on. The value is basically calculated, and this is as at the 31st of August. Income account would be the same account, be 2.2. Alright, so that's it for inventory items. We are going to create non-inventory items now. And non-inventory items could be items that are would be items that are tangible, but you don't want to track these items. So this can be like mark registers for your teachers, because it's not something that you are going to be reselling. And let's say they cost $900 each. And this would fall under instructional materials. Not sure if that account came across. But if not, we'll find an account to put it under. Or let's say general class materials. I think that's an appropriate account. We are now going to select OK, and we can say let's create another one, whiteboard markers. But you would basically have the brand and everything, so it would be more specific, because there are different brands whiteboard markers for different prices. So you can add them based on your institution. So say $200 each. Alright, so we have created all the items to begin the session, and time is basically against us, so we are going to be stopping here for today. So for your assignment, you'll be required to basically create, I would say, 6 items, and you'd be required to create or import the chart of accounts. So you can follow in the next session. Are there any questions?
For clarity, you said that the information will be available on this site too?
Yes, you can. You can, as soon as we edit this video and upload this video, you can go online and replay this video. So it will
Okay,
be available later today.
all right, thank you.
Right, and there are other videos already uploaded from previous sessions that you can actually watch. So there are several videos.
Okay, if we do not have the QuickBook template to do this, can that be also downloaded?
Yes, yes. You're talking the Ministry of Education budget.
No, the template that you just imported everything in.
Oh
The
yeah,
quick.
man. That's what. Yeah, that's it. I know what you're talking. You're talking. Yeah, man. It's the same thing. The budget, which is this.
Yes, it is a budget, but wouldn't we need to import it in
Oh, the
QuickBooks?
template that I formatted.
Yes.
Oh. Well, I can upload it, but the thing is, because it's not flawless, because I would still need to go and shorten some of the accounts, so you won't get any errors when you import it. So I can upload that as well. So the import can be very easy for you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Alright, so we basically come to the end. Thanks for attending, and as I said, you can access, I'm just gonna quickly show you how to access the recordings. So once you're logged into your portal and you have selected the course that you are enrolled in, you click on go to course, and under course content, this is where you would watch all your live classes, or not your recorded classes, I should say. For your live classes, which is one that we just did, similar to what we just did, I should say, you would come here for your live classes. If you have a question, you can post it in Q&A. When we post the quizzes will be posted here. When you get an assignment, you can upload your assignment here. If you need an appointment for some consultation, you can request an appointment here. And this is the general overview of the course, which outlines the classes, what will be covered. This is basically the course outline right here. And once you have completed a section, you can tick the section and mark it as complete. Right, at the end of the course, to the top right, this is where you would basically get your certificate once you have completed all the areas, quizzes, and so on, so forth. Alright, so thanks for attending, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time.